We're back, and this week I wanted to talk about something that over the past few years has become, or did become, a big part of my life. I would say it still is, to some extent, something I very much like doing, and just address where I think they get some things wrong when it comes to nutrition and your diet. And then I wanted to, maybe if we have time, chat about some other things as well. So before kind of flirting with the subject too much, I'm going to get into it. Although anyone watching, a couple of things. You will spot me drinking my 0 caffeine, 0 sugar, 0 calorie Coca-Cola. Not sponsored. Would absolutely love to be. I think they should have called it 00 Coke, but technically it's 3 zeros. But if you haven't tried it, it just tastes better. Something about the can being black and gold feels really sophisticated. But the reason I got one, it's because I thought it would just give me that little zappy edge. I'm recording this at 6:30 in the evening, which is getting pretty dangerously close to my bedtime. A long time since I've had coffee or any caffeine. And though I swear caffeine doesn't do anything to me, as the day goes on, I definitely feel my energy dropping. So being able to get one of these out on an evening, it can just give you that zap of energy you need to try and, whatever it is you're trying to deliver on in the evening, push it across the line. It's been very good for me. But that is the trouble. God, the bubbles make me burp so much. I coach at one of my mates' gyms a couple of days a week. Newcastle Fitness Club, shout out. And everyone knows that as soon as I crack out the can, I'll have a few glugs and then they wait for it. And then I just can't stop burping. So hopefully that doesn't happen, because nothing's quite as unpleasant for your oral pleasure, AURAL, get your head out the gutter, than someone burping down the mic. So hopefully that doesn't happen. The other thing, how anyone not watching, I don't know if you watch or listen, I do a bit of both with these, but you should watch and have a look at how class a job I did at finding bits of my hair, cutting my own hair. It's pretty damn short. That happened by accident. I set the clippers to a 10. And usually I get a 5 on top. So I thought, if I get a 10, it might just take the ends off and I can always go shorter. And I went straight down the middle and I dropped the hair in the sink and I looked down at it and I thought, fuck me, that's quite a lot of hair. And I realized that it was not a 10 like the barber's 10. It was, I don't know what it was short. So you can see my scalp. On one side of my head, I've got an unbelievable hairline. On the other side, it's less good. But we make do. I don't think I'm putting my barber out of business anytime soon either. So those are the main two obvious updates to let you know. But without further ado, did I get that wrong? We'll get into it. CrossFit. I don't know the legalities of talking about CrossFit, but somehow I don't think they're going to find out too much about me on this podcast. But today we're talking about CrossFit as the main thing. So for those of you who don't know, CrossFit has a very much way of defining what it is. CrossFit is, strictly speaking, it defines itself as, am I going to get this wrong now? Constantly varied, functional movements done at high intensity. Essentially, it's a training program that prides itself on, here come the burps, prides itself on variance, the constantly varied functional movements. So at a time when it came out, so I'm going to say early 2000s, I think it was right, gym culture at the time was very bodybuilding-esque. Whereas these days you have very much more people doing what we would term functional fitness, but technically a bicep curl on a machine is functional because the function of my bicep is to contract to bring my hand toward my mouth. That would make it kind of functional in your day-to-day life. It has a function. But anyway, we had the term functional supposed to be doable and transferable to your everyday life. So I suppose the most functional movement you could think of would be a deadlift, but don't get me started on deadlifts because everyone will say, don't do deadlifts, they're bad for your back. But what's the one thing you do all day, every fucking day is pick shit up off the floor? That's a deadlift. Okay, we're not about that today, but that winds me up so much. God, I love it when a little bit of passionate energy just comes out like that. Here we go. If you've managed to last this long, we're going to be cruising from now on because the 000 is hit. There's another little wet of the whistle, and I'm flying now. So that's what CrossFit is. What does that mean? CrossFit is essentially, it takes elements of gymnastics, Olympic weightlifting, regular gym stuff, and what you would deem cardio and fitness machines. It puts it all together, mixes it up, and it spits out loads of workouts. And what it tries to do is improve fitness. And it likes to think of fitness as, it's a very nice way to define fitness. Fitness isn't just, so someone who's a really good marathon runner wouldn't necessarily be the fittest person because they're very likely to have a shit deadlift. Like Kipchoge, unreal, I hope I've got his name right, unreal marathon runner. But I would be surprised if he could deadlift, I don't know, 100 kilos for multiple reps, which would be pretty mediocre deadlift for a man. And on the other end of the spectrum, we've got Eddie Hall. Eddie Hall is strong as hell. Let's go to Thor Bjornsson, strongest deadlift in the world, over 500 kilos. But he would probably not be able to run, I don't know, 1K? Do you think he'd be able to run 1K? I don't know, maybe. But what I'm saying is, those two people are specialists. And CrossFit would talk about someone being fit where you're the complete opposite of a specialist. The idea would be if it was, you take me as your example CrossFitter, Kipchoge and Thor Bjornsson, and you put us all through 10 tests of fitness. Oh, excuse me. Assuming we tested evenly in terms of, this is where it couldn't get quite complicated, but even areas of programming, like some endurance-based stuff alongside some strength stuff and then mixed stuff, technically I should come out on top. Because if you think about it, the marathon, Kipchoge's going to win, I'm going to come second, Thor's going to come third. The deadlift, Thor's going to win, I'm going to come second, Kipchoge's going to come third. So after two events, I suppose we're technically all even. I've finished second twice. They've had a first and a third. If the third event was a half marathon combined with a deadlift total, I would probably win that because my half marathon time would be a lot worse than Kipchoge's, and my deadlift would be a lot worse than Thor's, but my combined would be better than their combined. I think I got lost halfway through that. My mind got distracted, but I think I got it on the right basis there. So essentially, that's how they define fitness. You could think of it as like a jack of all trades, master of none, I suppose. But I think that saying does go on to say, but still better than most people, or something like that. So anyway, I got massively into CrossFit when I left I trained at a CrossFit gym a few years ago, and I never really got the bug for it. In hindsight, I sort of wish I had. But I decided to do their training course when I handed in my notice at my accounting firm I used to work for. And I never really wanted to go. I thought it was stupid. Anyway, I went, and lunchtime on day one, I was thinking, this has changed my life. The two guys who were doing it just were so passionate. The way they spoke about fitness and nutrition, I felt like at a time where things were up in the air for me, they just kind of gave me focus. If anything, they were just great people to try and mirror their attitude towards life and training. Rob Lawson was the guy who took the main part of that, and he has an incredibly inspiring story, especially with his sister, who was quite unwell for a period of time, and CrossFit essentially saved her. So it was cool. And do you know what? I can't remember if it was day one or day two, but he spoke to us about it, and Christ, you're off to go and have your lunch. And I remember getting a big tatty from, coincidentally, where I did it was down the road from where I used to play rugby, and got a baked potato from the place where I used to always get my lunch from the rugby place, and sitting in my car having a baked potato and thinking, Jesus, emotional as hell right now after the morning we've just had. So it was a pretty cool weekend. And from there, I ended up applying to work in a CrossFit gym. And then that's how I kind of started combining coaching CrossFit, PTing. Oh gosh, I suppose I wanted to take my PT stuff online, but there was a bit of a struggle with that. And that's, I suppose, how I ended up leaving the CrossFit gym that I was coaching at. I wasn't going to mention that, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, that's CrossFit. That's how I got into CrossFit. It's now my chosen method of training because it kind of combines everything. I think once you've kind of got a decent base of strength and fitness, it's nice to be able to just kind of go and do everything. The also great thing about it is you can do 20 minutes of work and be absolutely wrecked. And that's class. You don't have to go and do a 90-minute, 2-hour gym session. Anyway, the thing that I like about CrossFit almost the most is they have a pyramid of importance. And at the base of the pyramid is nutrition. So it kind of goes, I don't want to say the full pyramid because I will get it wrong. I think it goes nutrition. What it then says is metabolic conditioning. So metabolic conditioning is what you and I would call kind of aerobic exercise or cardio, not necessarily aerobic, but cardio. The next one up is gymnastics. You've then got weightlifting and throwing, and at the top is sport. And sport is like a combination of all of them. Anyway, interestingly enough, it adds nutrition into its level of importance, and nutrition is the base, which I really like for loads of reasons, because it kind of says if your base is especially on a pyramid, you can only build as high as your base is wide. So if your nutrition is shit and narrow, your pyramid's not going to be very tall. So by improving your nutrition, you're going to build a higher base. You're going to build a higher pyramid. So I really like the notion of that. And I sort of on this point, it's something I to and fro about, where I am almost adamant that actually to start making changes to your nutrition, training has to come first. And training doesn't necessarily need to be going to the gym. I suppose exercise maybe has to come first. I don't think anyone wants to make changes to their food before they're somewhat trying to be active, because I think what happens is you start off being active, and maybe not in extreme cases, because that's what's going through my head right now, someone who's incredibly obese, but not really my audience, and those people need different help. Actually, really interesting. There's a guy, the guy who kind of is the CrossFit guy is called Greg Glassman, and he gets quite a lot of bad publicity. But something he says about obesity, which I really rate, is that something along the lines of the sooner that people start treating obesity as a mental health issue than a physical health issue, the sooner we would get round to having less obese people, I suppose. And I liked that notion. I thought it was interesting. But again, that's kind of not what we're on today. So I was saying that you start off your training, you start off by getting into training, and then because what happens is I don't know, one Monday you go to the gym and you feel particularly shit, and you think, you almost can taste the chippy that you had on Saturday night, and you're like, oh geez, I wonder how I would feel on a Monday training if I didn't have the chippy. So next weekend you don't have the chippy. Chippy is a fish and chips for anyone who isn't familiar with the term. And on that Monday, you feel class. Like, whoa, hang on a second. There's a direct correlation here between my training today, feeling better, and me not having that chippy. Maybe I'm going to start making some better food choices. And that's what I think slowly starts to happen, as opposed to changing your diet, feeling good, and then going and training. But I suppose there's elements a bit of both. Anyway, where I think CrossFit slightly starts getting it wrong is from the nutrition point of view, they very much go into there are good foods and there are bad foods, which I think is a dangerous road to go down, because as soon as you I suppose you see it with kids from a very young age. As soon as you say, no, sorry, you can't do that or can't have that, they want to do that. And I think as adults, we don't grow out of that. As soon as someone says, no, you shouldn't have, you're like, okay, I won't. And then it's like too much and it's an itch you have to go and scratch. I'm going to go eat the chocolate. I know I shouldn't, but I don't know, maybe deep down inside all of us, we have this self-loathing. I think, wow, we're getting into it. I think that it is a far more comfortable state to be in, to sit with your self-loathing and like wallow in your self-pity, than it is to kind of, it's a term I hoped I would never say in public out loud, love yourself, I suppose. Cringe as fuck. But I think it's much easier to hate yourself than it is to be kind to yourself. Let me know your thoughts on that. Quite a deep thought, isn't it? Pretty rough, but I see it as being true. No. When it comes to CrossFit, their view is very much you should eat this perfect diet. We want to have, they do even a macronutrient split, 30% protein, 30% fat, 40% carbs, which if I were to eat 30, 40, 40 with the amount of calories I burn, I would almost end up eating 3 grams of protein per kilo. And once you start going above 2.5 grams of protein per kilo, you're really getting in kind of an unnecessary amount of protein to eat. And bearing in mind that I hit 2 grams of protein per kilo and probably too much information, but holy hell, some of the farts I do, my guts reek. Imagine if I was up at 3 grams. Jeez, the whole of Newcastle would be stinking. I shouldn't have put that in. Well, we're here now. So it really goes down to that, like, I was going to say the granular level. That's the corporate side of me saying bullshit terms like that. Granular level, fuck off. So where I think that is maybe starting to go a little bit too far is brilliant. Starting to dial in your macros and making really good food choices is the end goal. That's going to really widen your nutrition base, which means you're going to build this massive pyramid. But as someone who would describe themselves as a bit more of a robotic human, I realized the other day I only really eat for reasons. As in, I don't think, I would like to eat that. I think, it's 3:30, I'm training at 5:30, I'm going to have my pre-training carbs. Okay, what am I going to have? I'll have my Weetabix minis and I'll weigh them out, add milk to them. Whereas most people would, I don't know, get to 3:30 and be hungry and see they've got a chocolate bar and reach for that kind of thing. I don't really do that. It's like, it's either meal time, it's pre-training time, it's post-training snack time, which today I'm on a deload week. I didn't really train hard enough to really justify having some chocolate milk. So I'm pretty butthurt about that. It's like my favorite part of the day is drinking chocolate milk. It's so good. But so I suppose maybe it's because I eat so much at my meal times anyway, my cravings are less. But so that's how I am. And I still think that on reflection, realized I only got to this state by making small changes over time. And I think the notion of trying to go from eating a inverted commas normal diet to this kind of diet that we should really all aim for most of the time, a single ingredient whole food diet, rich in nutrients, and it's going to be very satiating. It's something we should aim towards, but it's a long process getting there. Very few people are going to be able to flick that switch and just get on with it. And this is what I actually think can kind of stop some people getting started. So I operate with my clients. The kind of 2 things that really matter when it comes to body composition are your total calories. That's the interesting thing, that CrossFit never really mentions that in the nutrition. It doesn't really go into calories. You can eat the most perfect diet, but if you're consuming more calories than your body needs, you will not lose fat. You'll put on weight. That is just how it works. So to some extent, it really doesn't matter what you eat. It is all about calories. But also at the same time, saying it's all about calories is a kind of stupid statement as well, because it is more complex than that. Or there's more to it than that's not more complex. But something that works really well, and I've seen it work really well with my clients. One of my clients has lost 5 freaking kilos in a month. How mental is that? It's unreal. A calorie target and a protein target. So where calories and protein are matched is a term I say quite a lot. What I mean is where you have 2 groups of people, they're both eating 2,000 calories, they're both eating 2 grams per kilo of protein, or they're eating the same protein, same calories, and then the rest of their diet, macronutrient-wise, one's made up of high carb, low fat, one's made up of low fat, the opposite of what I just said. One's high carb, one's low carb. They have very similar body compositions over time. In fact, in one of the studies, they looked at the group that had the higher carb actually lost more fat over the course of the study, but they said over time it would kind of even out. But what that essentially means is that fats and carbs don't matter. Okay, yes, carbs do matter in terms of you want to eat some carbs before you train. It's going to give you energy. Carbs after training can really help with recovery too. Fats, if they go too low, they can impact your hormones. But generally speaking, having a calorie target to aim for and eat to that calorie target, and then having a protein target, by the time you've worked hard enough to eat that protein target, make those food choices, you're going to have naturally eaten a certain makeup of carbs and fats. So don't really worry about it. And by following that principle, what's going to happen is you're going to start getting in decent shape. You're going to start leaning up, losing a bit of fat, maybe as well starting to build a bit of muscle. And then you might go, oh my God, this whole calories thing is feeling great, but I'm feeling quite hungry still. That's essentially what happened to me. I was like, man, I feel hungry. How can I eat the most possible and not get fat? That sounds really kind of simplistic to say, but that was kind of my thoughts. In what way can I eat the most amount of food possible without getting fat? And that essentially meant eating more single ingredient whole foods. Because if I could eat just potatoes, you can eat so many potatoes for the equivalent amount of carbs in chocolate. I don't know why I always use chocolate as my example. Sweets. I could have like a tiny amount of sweets for a massive equivalent of potatoes. So in my head, I was like, oh, fuck the sweet stuff. I'll have some potatoes and I'll have some fruit for the same amount of calories and I suppose carbs. But this is where I think sometimes it's useful to... Everyone's too busy trying to be the end goal from the start. And this is maybe a reminder to myself, like, it's hard when you're... So my way of relating to this is when I'm trying to produce content, saying that term freaking gives me the ick, I look at the people around me and I want to be able to deliver it in a way that people who have been doing it for longer than me can do it. But I've got to do the shit versions time after time after time and slowly refine it, and eventually I'll get there. Same thing comes to your diet. People will look at what I eat. They might say, oh, what do you eat? And they want to try and jump in and do that. But you've just got to start with where you're at and then slowly make the changes over time. And starting with a calorie target and a protein target is just going to make things really simple for you. It's maths. You just kind of stick to it. Now, obviously, sticking to it is a different thing entirely. It's hard. You're going to be hungry. We live in an environment where you're probably not very used to being hungry, so you're going to have to learn to sit with hunger a bit more. That is something I felt the other day. I was eating tuna, and I realized I was at a point of eating the tuna where I thought, I am no longer hungry. I am eating this because I am not going to give myself a choice other than this. If I stop eating now, I'll be hungry in about 20 minutes. So I'm just going to keep eating. But the trouble is when you feel that feeling, you can fuck off whatever foods you've got and just go and get whatever. Man, I've got a Sainsbury's that way 5 minutes, 2 minutes, a Sainsbury's that way 5 minutes, a Tesco about 7 minutes that way. And at any of them, I can go and buy... I'd probably go and buy 10 times my daily calorie intake in a matter of minutes. It is hard. So we don't given how hard it is, we don't need to overcomplicate it at the start by trying to get you to follow a diet that you're never going to be able to stick to. It's so different from where you're currently at. And that's kind of what I had to say about that. I just think it would be interesting. I'd love to sit with Greg Glassman, who wrote the articles about the nutrition, and see his take on why they never sort of looked at the more simplistic level of, right, let's put you in a calorie deficit, give you a protein target, get you training, and then now we've got you lost that fat and got you in a more kind of, let's be honest, more healthy body. Having excess body fat is not healthy. I don't know if that makes me anti-body positivity or not. Don't mean any aggression or harm by that. I am quite simply trying to state facts. I don't know why I got so awkward there. Maybe I need a little bit of double O Coke, 000 even. So there is that for you. So what can you take away from this? Well, maybe if you're in a position where you're trying to eat the perfect diet and you can't because it's hard and you start slipping off all the time, maybe you just need to stop focusing too much on food quality, and we'll just look at the quantity of calories at the moment and trying to hit a protein target. I always talk about 2 grams per kilo protein. It's a good thing to aim for because it's quite hard to get to. But really, if you can start getting above, like if you can consistently get 1.5 grams towards that kind of 1.8 mark, somewhere in there, that's going to be pretty solid for you. And the thing is, if you get closer to 2 grams, you're just going to be more likely fuller. But if you can get used to the point of nailing your calories, what's going to happen is you're going to start leaning out, losing a bit of fat, and then you're going to start feeling better about the whole process. You get that positive reinforcement. Oh, that was the term I was looking for as well. Positive reinforcement, which is going to encourage you and motivate you to make those better food choices down the line. So I think if you're trying to make the good food choices at the moment and thinking about macro splits, you're maybe just a few months ahead of yourself. Give yourself a few months of being a bit more simplistic and just looking at calories and protein. And in a few months' time, once that's worked for you and leaned you out a bit, then you can start refining the few things. And then just appreciate that from there, it will continue to change year after year after year. Like, Christ, 4 years ago, I'd come back from work and have like family sharing bag of salt and vinegar crisps and 2 beers still. But outside of that, my diet was really good, but I'd still come back and have that. And I can tell you the 3 last drinks I had, 2 beers on Christmas, just gone, and then a whiskey like 2 years ago. So it will evolve. Moving on from that one, I think we have a bit of time. I felt like, so future of the podcast, so I'm starting a nutrition course, MNU, Mac Nutrition Uni. And I thought it would be a really fun thing to do, is every week, my learnings from that, I'm just going to take something that I think is really interesting from the course that I'm learning, and that will make up part of the podcast, because one of the reasons for me going on the course is I understand how things work. And if I understand how they work from either a practice point of view or having worked with someone on it or done research or whatever, I sometimes get the science of my side of it. But I wanted to understand the science of my side of it even better. But I also wanted to understand why someone might disagree with the side of science that is correct, I suppose. So for example, a lot of people think that if you have high insulin, you can't lose fat, which is why they say if you eat carbs, you can't lose fat. And that's wrong. But I want to, and I suppose the science reason behind that is when insulin spikes, your body goes away from burning fat, let's say, and more towards burning carbs. So the theory is that if your insulin's raised the whole time, how could you possibly burn fat? But that's such a simplistic level. And one of my reasons is I want to go and get a deeper understanding from the science. So I thought what would be a cool thing is each week when I find out a more interesting, deep science area about nutrition, I can come and deliver it to you. It'd be really good for my learning. and try and kind of dumb it down. Not necessarily that you need it dumbed down. It's probably more for my delivery purposes. They say if you can explain it to a 5-year-old, then you really know it. So it'll be helpful for me. Hopefully it's interesting for you. And the other thing I wanted to say is it's been the last 10 days, 2 weeks of trying to start producing a little bit better content. It's a hard one. I get really passionate and I want to call out shit talkers, people just saying stupid shit. There's so many people saying stupid shit online, and it's for reasons like that you might think carbs are bad, or you might think you have to, I don't know, drink fucking apple cider and vinegar or something in the morning, or you might think, I don't know, you have to wear a cable cuff while doing your pec flies in order to activate your pec minor properly. And when I see stuff, it just pisses me off. But what I decided was, when I call people out, it then just makes me feel really shit. So I think react-based content is really good. I enjoy watching people react. But it's a hard one because I see it and I'm instantly like sick. I know exactly what I'm going to say. Pull out your phone, you make it, and then you go to post it and you're like, man, I just feel shit. No one really wins when you shit on someone. So I'm still going to try and use elements of it when I see something that's stupid, try and turn it into a video, but maybe be less aggressive at calling the person a cunt, because it just leaves me not feeling very good about myself. And then I lie in bed at night overthinking about it. So yeah, there's the little inside scoop of life as a online coach. It's not always all beers and Skittles, but it is fucking good, I'll tell you that for free. And that kind of leads me on to those of you who listen to this podcast are very much am I going to say the term? My day ones. That's a cringe term. You're the OGs. So it'd be cool just kind of sharing the odd bits like that with you as I kind of build my business more and more, can kind of like share the process with you. But yeah, really cool point with business recently, where the business is me. So it's so weird calling it a business, but I'm now at a point where, I'm very much replacing fully from online, replacing the salary I had when I was working in a gym full time. So that's really cool that my online coaching is as viable a career as my in-person CrossFit coaching was. But I just want to build it more. I want to get more reach, because the more reach I get, the more people that I can help. And don't get me wrong, I also want to make more money. I think that's stupid to pretend I don't. I left tax for 2 reasons. One was because I thought in order to earn the big money, you had to do loads of bullshit. And the other one was, it was a load of bullshit. And I very much see this career as something that can be less bullshit, but also I can help people. And having been someone in an absolute state with their body, what did I write down today? It's a hard enough world to live in without looking in the mirror and hating what you see and feeling shit about yourself the whole time. Like, put it this way. If, I don't know if you're watching, but if you're listening, it's not very hard to find a photo on my Instagram of me not wearing very many clothes. And you might look at me and think, damn, he looks pretty lean. I would like to look like that. I've even been told by my sort of stepmom that I carry too much muscle, which I thought she said as an insult, but I took it as a fucking compliment, I'll tell you that for free. But where am I going with this? I heard someone outside and it's distracted me. Doesn't necessarily mean that life's always bright and rosy. I mean, I enjoy my life. My life's good. But what I'm saying is life is still hard enough regardless of what's going on with your body. So if I can help people sort out their body, often it's the thing that also helps them improve other areas of their life. So yeah, still looking very much to grow the business. So we're still looking to push, still looking to grind, Can't believe I just said grind. This is the worst thing about doing it very much like one take, essentially live. You could be live with me right now, and I would like to do it live in the future, but I need special cables to make the quality good, and they're expensive. And it seems silly to go to live if I'm only going to have me, myself, and I on the live. But yeah, that's the trouble with doing like a one take thing, is I do say some things and I'm like, fuck, am I really going to post this? But it's cool. You get to really see the real me. How did Hannah describe me? I am weird. She said I was weird, passionate. And the third one, she didn't say it necessarily in this order, but she said I was thoughtful. I was asking her to describe me, so I thought it was really helpful. And she said thoughtful, and I was like, oh, I'm thoughtful. But she went, no, not in the way that like, I'm not thoughtful in the way of like, I'll bring you a cup of tea in the morning, that kind of thing, or I don't know, I'll buy your favorite flowers or fold your clothes or something like that. I am thoughtful in the sense that I sit and I think a lot. So I think very, very deeply. I try to think deeply about things and life, and not just take things for the way they are, which is ultimately probably why I struggled in the classic 9-to-5 corporate environment, because it's bullshit and everyone just pretends it's not. And I got fucking sick of it. Oh, maybe I could do an episode one day bitching about that, but no, it's not really interesting for anyone. It doesn't really help anyone. So, last thing before I go. Yes, this has, I'll tell you right now, I'm holding up my 00 Coke 000 for those of you listening. This has aspartame, I can't remember how you say it. Aspartame is how we say it. It also has Ace K. These are two sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. They can potentially give you cancer if I drank about 80 of these a day. And if I drank about 80 of these a day, I think we would have other areas that are issues that we need to discuss. Like, that's enough of an issue in itself if you're drinking fucking 80 cans of a a fizzy drink every day. That's ridiculous. And also, can't see where my phone is, but they're put in the same carcinogen category as your phone, and people don't fucking get rid of their phone. So don't worry about your sweeteners. It can actually be I'm going to do the influencer point. It can be I think this can be a really underrated and good way to satisfy your sweet tooth in the evening. You can even pair it with some fruit, protein yogurt, a couple of squares of chocolate. But for me, sometimes if I'm just when you're just like, if you're bored, hungry, and it's the evening and you're about to go to bed, I'm not about to go to bed, but it's getting that way. Just grab one of these, and I don't get commission from Asda, but big pack. Are they 24? 24 for 10 quid? I think that's a good deal. Felt like a good deal. Was it 32 for 10 quid? It was a lot of cans for 10 quid. Seemed like a good deal. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. Hopefully see you in a week.